The dozen or so main zones that we have come up in this environment where every zone had to build their own validator set, and they've been very successful in doing so. So what does not shared security get you? The strengths of not shared security is it is a permissionless ecosystem. You can run a Cosmos node on a couple of AWS zones. On a couple of AWS nodes, you can run it on a laptop, you can run it on a bunch of Raspberry Pis, and you can still connect to the network, to the IBC network. And I think that's, by far one of the real strengths of the Cosmos ecosystem. But, and so, this is, sovereign zones that interoperate where failure is isolated. So any zone can, have a software bug or halt, and it doesn't necessarily affect any of the other zones. And so the Cosmos network as a whole keeps chugging along. So why introduce shared security? What are the problems that shared security solves? And so it's sort of an interesting. There's a framework, and we typically organize this framework in terms of shared security V0, which is something that will probably be ready early next year, and then future versions of shared security V1, shared security V2. So one of the problems that shared security V0 happens is one of the things we're seeing is we are seeing demand for software run by atom holders, just for example, but you apply this to any staking token in Cosmos just as much. But we see a demand for software run by atom holders, but doesn't run on the hub. And we want to do something. So examples of this. So why not run something on the hub? So the tricky thing about the Cosmos Hub is, and the purpose of the Cosmos Hub and the vision of the Cosmos Hub was always, the Cosmos Hub was going to bear the burden of integrating with all of these different service providers that you have to integrate with in order to make blockchains work today. If you build a blockchain, you have to integrate with exchanges, you have to interact with custodians, you have to interact with block explorers, you have to interact with relayers, IBC relayers, all of these parties. The Cosmos Hub represents the highest density of integrations in the entire Cosmos network, even more than a large blockchain like Terra. There are more independent parties that are integrating the Cosmos Hub. But what that means is that every time we want to change the Cosmos Hub, every time we want to add new features, every time we want to support new protocols, an enormous amount of work has to be done in order to upgrade the Cosmos Hub. And it's not really the software upgrade that is hard. It is the keeping the Ledger Live app working, keeping the making sure Mint Scan works, making sure Kepler works, making sure Binance can still send and receive tokens under staking work, making sure the same thing is true for Coinbase and Kraken. Making sure all of this continues to work is typically the large part. Is usually far more work and far more difficult than the work required to do to write the code and test the code and ship the code. And so one of the things that would be nice would be able to run software powered by atoms, powered by where you're not introducing a new token. CosmWasm, the EVM, a DEX, a lending protocol, run all kinds of different things that might be interesting, and run them but power them by atoms. And those zones could plausibly not have any of this integration overhead this integration overhead of integrating with all these parties. You wouldn't have to be able to send tokens to Coinbase on this chain, et cetera. So you get this minimized integration surface area. And this is really the sort of key part of the vision of Interchange Security V0. The key part of the vision of Interchange Security V0 is to run stuff on the same validator set as the hub, but you are running an isolated instance of software. That software, all of the validator set of the hub will have to run it. So we will have to get some buy-in from the exchanges that run validators, but people don't have to do any of these other complex integrations. And so we get a new feature that accrues value to atoms, that generates utility and fees for atom holders without having to go through this complex integration every time we want to do. So it lets us run stuff that is more experimental, run stuff that is evolving more slowly, and run stuff that has a risk that it might halt or even have a security vulnerability, because that security vulnerability would be contained to that system. So this goal of sort of increasing the velocity of the Cosmos ecosystem by allowing for these zones to exist is kind of like one of the initial goals of shared security, is to allow every Cosmos chain to get horizontal scaling, to have every Cosmos chain to have horizontal scaling, the ability to run software that has sort of different guarantees around sort of security and stability than their sort of main zone does, and to continuously and so this is kind of where the desire for shared security is coming from, or interchain security. This is the perceived use case between Interchange Security V0. The flip side of this, or like the sort of the next side of this, is when we go to Interchange Security V1 and V2, which is, these are now starting to explore the idea of only having subsets of two things. One is, as we get into it, so Interchange Security V1, if I'm remembering correctly, because I could be wrong, and I'm sure people will yell at me if I'm wrong. The Interchange Security V1 is sort of bringing in this idea now of having chains now buying part of their security from the Cosmos Hub. So rather than saying, hey, we don't want to have our own token. We don't want to have our own token. We don't want to have our own governance. We want to be completely a subsidiary to the Cosmos Hub. Instead, we want to have essentially this business partnership with the Cosmos Hub. And the reason we want to have this business partnership for the Cosmos Hub is because we believe that people will be willing to custody more value on our chain, hold more value in our DEX, hold more value in our lending protocol, et cetera, if they know that any sort of misbehavior from the validator set is going to result in slashing on the Cosmos Hub, and that there are Cosmos Hub validators that we trust sort of in protocol, sort of involved and engaged in the system, increasing its security. So that would be the next sort of evolution of the system, where now the Cosmos Hub becomes essentially a security vendor. We are selling the security of the Cosmos Hub to other chains that they can opt in to adopt. And this starts to feel a little bit more like, things like the Polkadot model, where, there is one common big validator set, but we are still preserving the ability to sort of, for every zone to independently choose how they use these things. And then the sort of third sort of layer of the system, the sort of third sort of step in the interchain security story, is really being able to have individual validators on the Cosmos Hub opt into securing another chain, but being held accountable on the Cosmos Hub. So in this scenario, it isn't the entire Cosmos Hub validator set that would participate in securing a system. It would be only a subset, but a subset of those validators could say, hey, I want to be able, I'm staked on the Cosmos Hub, but I want my stake to be accountable for this other chain. And this kind of gets you now to this like sort of, in V0 in V1, it is a Cosmos Hub governance decision to add a new chain to this shared security system. And so that is not a permissionless ecosystem. That is a very much like a permissioned ecosystem. And, people are going to have to figure out how to convince validators and atom holders that they want to onboard a new zone. When we get all the way to sort of the edge of the roadmap that we are currently thinking about, now validators will be able to just make their own individualized decision to say, hey, we're going to also secure this zone and be accountable for it. I think these things are going to be very interesting to see how they continue to play out. As expected, we've seen the validator marketplace consist of many validators running many zones. You see very many similar, you see the same validator across Osmosis and Terra and the Cosmos Hub and Persistence, et cetera. But I think we are going to, this idea of having sort of built-in economic accountability starts to make sense in a world of hundreds or thousands of zones, where it becomes a little bit harder to reason about the security of these systems just by like kind of looking at who the validator set is on the chain. So I think these are sort of the core values of the Interchain Security Program and the Interchain Security mission. This is, I think, going to be coming to the Cosmos in 2022. I think it is one of the more exciting things that is going to be available to the existing set of Cosmos zones. And it'll hopefully make I think one of the things that the other aspects of it is it'll, without a doubt, reduce the amount of, it could very much change the nature of the business development process for Cosmos zones. In right now, the business development process is very much this like somewhat chaotic process of reaching out to this massive pool of validators and onboarding people. You want to spin up a new zone. There's just, there seems to be thousands of different validator operators now, and it is a huge amount of overhead to manage these large communities of validators. I think that ecosystem will continue to exist and will be a big part of how some zones go to market, some Cosmos chains go to market. But you're also going to see Cosmos chains maybe choose to be like, hey, we're just going to make a governance proposal to Cosmos Hub. That's where we're going to get our validator set from. And that may change a big part of the market in 2022 from all the other layer one ecosystems in terms of how we want to overcome the like sort of friction points
So that was Zaki Mannion on shared security and IBC and multiple components of how Cosmos is coming together. Next up, we have the safeguardians of Cosmos, the validators. And we have quite an interesting panel today with some of the most active validators in the Cosmos ecosystem. So we have Zach Zampolin, who runs Strangelove Validator, recently rebranded, and is also the co-founder of Sommelier Finance. We have Matt from Figment, and we have JK from Stakefish, Borden from Everstake, and we have David from Cosmos Station. All of these validators and individuals have been contributing to Cosmos ecosystem for a very long time. And today we are going to talk about multiple things from network security to staking derivatives and how each of those components play in the security of the entire network. So I'll welcome all our panelists. Hi, Jack. Hi, David.
Hi.
Hi, Vernon.
Hi.
Hi, JK.
Hey.
I think so, JK, they took your actual name. They should have just put JK.
Yeah, that's my first name. Yeah. But I go by JK.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, I did not know that was your first name. And also, this is a validator panel, so I'm probably more here in my Strangelove Ventures capacity than I am in my sommelier capacity. But anyway.
Yeah. Great. So I think so we can just kickstart first by if everyone can introduce themselves, the validator you guys are representing, and then we can just get into the questions. Borden, do you want to start? And then we can go JK, Matt, David, and Jack.
Yeah, let's go. So, hi everyone, my name is Bogdan. I am CEO at Overstake. Thanks everyone for joining it. Happy to answer to any questions. So, a few words about me. I have a vast experience in product and project management. I am in charge of managing and coordinating teams within of Overstake's activities, help execute long-term and short-term plans and directives by implementing the vision, management, and leadership, like everything in Overstake. So Everstake is a staking service platform that helps institutional investors and regular token holders to profit off their crypto assets. So right now we operate in a wide range of proof of stake and delegated proof of stake blockchains, and providing our customers a lot of options to choose from. So right now Everstake, one of the biggest retail validator right now. If we compare all clients in the one combined clients in one box, it will be closer to 465,000 clients and closer to $6 billion worth in total assets staked. Right now, Everstake working on with 47 blockchain in the mainnet and closer to 25 blockchain in the testnet. So it's very, very quick intro, and I'm happy to pass this into another one. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm JK from Stakefish, and I lead strategy and operations here. Stakefish is a infrastructure provider for blockchain projects, and we are one of the Genesis validators for Cosmos, and so we've been very invested into the Cosmos ecosystem for very early on, and we support various Cosmos-related, Cosmos SDK-based blockchains, and of course, persistence being one of them. And we're very passionate about trying to see the explosion of the Cosmos ecosystem. It's already happening to some extent, but we definitely love to see IBC becoming more, much more widely adopted. Because obviously, Cosmos has put a lot of thought into how blockchains could talk with each other, and I don't think there's a lot of other protocols out there that have put as much thought as Cosmos has done so far. And so happy to chime in on what our thoughts are, but yeah, excited to be part of this panel.
Hi, and thanks, JK. My name is Matt. I am one of the founders of Figment. We're a large proof of stake operator, as well as being an infrastructure provider on these networks. We were also a Genesis validator. We've been a Genesis validator on a bunch of networks. That's one of the more fun parts, actually, of this job is getting to participate in those Genesis ceremonies, and bringing new networks online for the first time is always one of the more exciting parts. We also, in addition to running validators, mostly for institutional clients, we have less retail side, but more institutional. Other than running validators, we also have a pretty significant operation running full nodes via a service we call Data Hub, which is an API access gateway. So we're providing that service to Cosmos and a number of different blockchains. We also write a fair bit of software to provide indexing services to basically provide that sort of second layer on top of the raw API. And we've been happy to be able to support a bunch of zone launches with that API service to help them launch. So and we've been with Persistence through a lot of the early tests, and super excited about where Persistence is now going. Yeah, happy to be here.
David?
Yeah, hi, my name is David, and I'm from Cosmos Station. I lead operations and partnerships at Cosmos Station. We are a validator node for Cosmos, and we're also a Genesis validator, and we currently operate POS nodes across several Cosmos SDK-based networks, including Persistence, Kava, Band Protocol, and many more. And sort of like as our value add, we also have products, including MintScan, which is the Cosmos Explorer. It supports, I think, about 25 different Cosmos SDK-based networks now. And we've been working on improving that to sort of make it IBC compatible, with IBC being enabled across many networks now. And we also have our mobile wallet, which is our non-custodial wallet for Cosmos SDK-based networks, and which also supports IBC functionalities. So yeah, if you're watching this and if you're a project building on Cosmos SDK, feel free to reach out to us and see what we can do together.
Cosmos Station, the best explorer in Cosmos. MintScan, rocking it.
Thank you.
Great group of folks on this call, and all of whom I have known since the Cosmos Genesis. My name is Jack Zamplin, and I am here today, not for Sommelier Protocol, which I believe Zaki, who was just up here earlier before, was talking about primarily. Or no, Zaki was talking about shared security, but I'm working on Sommelier with Zaki. I'm here as a part of Strangelove Ventures, which is my validator company. I've been a validator on Cosmos-based chains since the hub launched, I think I got on at like block 1,500. And I operate on 3 or 4 other chains. In addition to running the validators, I also build the Golang relayer, which is one of the 2 major relayers for IBC, and have some folks that I operate that with. Another project that we maintain that's very validator centric is the Horcrux threshold signer. So if you're running a validator and you would like to have more redundancy and some better security properties at the key layer, the validator signing key layer, this allows you to shard your signing key across in nodes and provide high availability at that layer. It's given me, as a sort of smaller validator operator, a lot of assurance that I'm not going to go down and get slashed. And I think we've seen a lot of that happen to a number of folks on major chains recently, and I think everyone's looking for more stuff in that area. As a fund, Strangelove is really focused on everything IBC related, and we are going to continue to invest in and work on the core IBC technologies. So, hey.
Oh, great. With that, once we have introductions out of the way, I think so. A lot of points were covered about different components or different products that each validator offers, and that was the initial thought of why to do this introduction, so that people know that validators are doing quite a bit just beyond just validating, whether it's data hub, whether it's providing infrastructure services, or it's whether creating explorers or wallets, IBC relayers. So I think so a lot of people need to know this. So just like I think so we would like to start with saying that we have seen a lot of resources and developments being shared up around like shared security and interchain security, and just want to start this on this note is because this builds up for the discussion. How do you think it will improve or impact the security of the overall Cosmos ecosystem? Right? Because and just like a side note on this is we've seen that every chain is starting to spin up their own token, their own sort of chain, and that sort of keeps on restricting the Cosmos hub. But I think so with shared security, we would have more use cases for Atom, and with that, more expansion of Cosmos ecosystem. From validator perspective or security perspective, what do you guys think with how this economics would work? Because I think so the validators of Cosmos Hub will be extended to those app chains, which would basically attach themselves to shared security. So do you want to start, Jack, and then we can go David, Matt, JK, and Bowden in this moment?
Yeah, sure. I'm really excited about shared security and all of the different pieces coming up for Cosmos. I think one of the things it's going to be most critical, especially over the next year, is a continued investment in IBC user experience. I think that one of the things that all of these other ecosystems are seeing, be it these various EVM bridges, etc., is that the user experience of cross-chain is complicated. There's a lot of edge cases. It is very hard to describe to users what's going on in an understandable way while not snowing them under with way too much information. And this is an area where we have run into these problems in many cases years before the rest of the world, and have been working on innovative solutions for those. And I think that the way that we continue to differentiate is by focusing on that cross-chain user experience and ensuring that it's kind of the best in class. Shared security is definitely a part of that. Stuff like the IBC router, which Strangelove has shipped recently and will be in the next Gaia upgrade, is part of that. Things like chain naming service, i.e. the ability to positively identify chains and some associated metadata in much the same way DNS provides human names via the DNS service and an associated metadata mapping for various different automatable pieces. We need to provide that at the IBC layer as well. I think the logical place for that is on the hub. But anyway, a lot of exciting things to come up in the next year.
Yeah, I think with shared security coming up, I think more networks will be more projects launched. getting their own validator set, making sure that's been running validator nodes for Cosmos Hub for 2 years now, over 2 years now. And I think that if you're in the Cosmos Hub right now and you're validating it, you're in the top 125 validator list, it means that you have found either your niche or you are betting that Cosmos will become bigger. You want to contribute to the network in a meaningful way, and you have found a sustainable way to maintain your operation. So it would mean that new networks will directly benefit from that as well. And so I think it would definitely be a great value add for the security of the overall ecosystem for networks that are willing to launch a network with shared security.
Yeah, I would definitely reinforce what both Jack and David have said. And I think that for us, one of the key challenges that we've seen recently has been with the number of new chains that are launching. It really is. There's a lot of competition for attention, and we often have these lists, and we're like, well, we'd like to validate on all of these chains. We think they're great additions to the ecosystem. We'd like to support them, and we at least we like to think that our support would be valuable. I think that probably is something that everybody at this table has seen. And so the really exciting thing to me about shared security is that we will be able to do that without having to sort of subdivide our attention so much. And I think it will also be just an excellent addition to the layers of choice that new zone launches have available to them. Just because shared security is there does not mean everybody will want to do that. And having the option between launching with shared security and building your own community and your own validator set that to have that genuine total sovereignty. I think having both of those capacities there is really unique in the Cosmos ecosystem, and it's going to be so that's very exciting to us.
I think generally it makes sense, right, to do shared security. If you're like, just imagine from the shoes of like an application dev team, having to build an application that is not buggy, that does what it's meant to do, and then on top of that, maintaining your own blockchain. That just sounds like a nightmare to me. Trying to manage both ends, and application devs and blockchain devs are very different, I think, groups of people. Like, there's definitely advantages that if the devs have on blockchain or application, but I've rarely seen like devs who can really professionally do both very, very well. I mean, these are very rare people, but they do exist, but they're not all out there. So like, just wanted to say that, like, yeah, it just makes sense. But I do want to also sound like a warning in that, like, this also does mean that unless we find proper ways of making sure to guard what we're securing, there may be blockchains that we might not deem to be up to the standard that we're seeing these days. Getting that shared security from the Cosmos Hub. Like, if we do not design a method on onboarding new chains properly, we might end up with a ton of spam blockchains just spinning up because there's not a ton of sort of downside for these people, and validators then at the end of the day are going to be suffering if that's what it comes to. So I do want to sound alarm there to say that, like, yes, it's great, but at the same time we need to make sure that we design this properly.
Yeah, so I agree with you guys. I even don't know anything to add, but in general, it will be easier for the data perspective. It will be easier for new chains because everything will be checked and everything will be okay. But of course, it depends on the blockchain. If something like decided to create something unique, maybe we have to think about in another way. But in general, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing opinions. I think so we got like a whole circle of things, like how it would be easier from the user perspective, from the validators, like trying to grow the ecosystem and validate for more chains, and how we have to ensure that there are certain parameters that are put in before extracting the resources from the Cosmos Hub. What would be those standards that would be required? That brings to the point that Jack highlighted, is that still there needs to be a lot of work that needs to go into IBC, and like we would see another year or two, just like a lot of developments that need to be done on IBC. But we've seen IBC being launched early this year, and since then it's been running. We have seen now quite a traction with multiple DEXs being launched and now Terra coming in. So we'd see like more and more chains like attached to IBC. With that, the attraction would grow. But with that, I think so the core component of IBC as a whole, the relay infrastructure also has to expand significantly, which we're still seeing lagging behind as more chains are coming in. But the relay system is still yet like a lot of validators have to, or like some people are just running to secure the IBC protocol, but there's not incentivized, like direct incentivizations yet for relayers. What are your thoughts on it? How can, or like each team, for example, Persistence, how does it support relay operations and how to incentivize that? What could be the models? Like for validators, we have direct incentivization in terms of staking rewards and like staking economics, but how with case of relayers? Warren, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, let's do. So I don't want to be very rude, but everything depends on money sometimes. And maybe the best way is to incentivize relayers, and it will be easier. Of course, you could like grab some teams around the world and said that just guys help us please, blah blah blah. It will be another way, but the very like quick answer is we could incentivize relayers. Of course, we could like come up with more ideas and discuss internally, I mean in Cosmos ecosystem, and come up with something. Yeah, but
yeah, I just to tack onto that, and you know, this is obviously kind of a hobby horse for me, so sorry for folks who have heard me talk about this a lot recently. I think that the relayer DAO is so incentivizing relayers is definitely one piece of it. You know, when we were building IBC, we had the choice to build relayer incentivization into the protocol and perhaps delay the protocol for 6 to 12 months while we built that, because that would have been an extremely complex feature. We chose not to, and we chose to launch with organize a few teams around the world. What we've seen is that original thesis has been validated, and we've been able to easily organize a large team of folks in a decentralized fashion to perform this service. Now, we do also have the IBC core team working on in-protocol relayer fee incentivization. I think there's a lot of doubt as to whether or not that is going to make relayers sustainable in the long term, even with that in-protocol fee stuff. And, you know, I think that there's also some interesting work to be done on JavaScript relaying, where users would relay their own packets. Now, with that as the backdrop, I'm currently proposing that we create a DAO for relayers and go ask the current set of IBC connected chains to contribute to that DAO. With that DAO, we would use that to fund existing relayers and defray their operational costs until in-protocol fees can come, as well as fund long-term sustainability and maintainability of the core IBC relayer software, as well as new implementations that come. So, you know, I'm currently putting together a 5-person multi-sig that would go and request on each of those chains for a community fund spend proposal. And then I'd like to host the DAO on Juno with some CosmWasm smart contracts and a front end that's being built by the starting team. So have a number of folks involved here and actively looking for some more collaborators here. But I think that as far as IBC sustainability and, you know, what Cosmos has always been about is iterative solutions and things that work over sort of the ideal solution. And, you know, we're in a place with relaying where there is an ideal solution that's on the horizon, but there are potential problems with that, A. And then B, there's this sort of mid-range time gap that we need to cover of the next 6 to 12 months. And this relayer DAO seems like kind of the obvious solution in sort of codifying a little bit of what exists right now. So that would be my answer as to what the best way forward there is.
Yeah, I would add a comment about how incentivization can have sort of perverse incentives or lead to outcomes that are not necessarily desired. Our view, I would certainly echo Boden that things do come down to money, you have to be able to fund. If you want a community good, the money has to arrive somewhere to fund that thing. You know, else that it's unlikely to happen in a sustainable way. But the sort of the promised land of individual relayers being incentivized to move packets, you know, that sort of architecture is something that we've kind of moved away from in the public internet, where individual, you know, steps along the way are not charging to move a packet. They're incentivized to do so elsewhere. Everyone involved in making the internet go is certainly getting paid, but they're not taking a tax essentially at every hop. That's just not how that goes. I really do like Jack's ideas around a DAO or around other sort of direct funding models. I think chains have an incentive. You know, that's kind of what the community pools are there for, is to fund things that chain needs that will enhance the value of the chain and, you know, and move it forward. I think the one thing I'm sure of is that a model where people run relayers, which is difficult, and I don't think anyone should sort of underrate how much work the people who are currently running the relayers are putting in, you know, middle of the night to keep those things working. And in the long run, that is not something that people are going to do just because they want to for a sustainable future.
Yeah, you know, Matt, just to tack onto that a little bit, we're kind of at the pre-revenue phase of starting up the business right now. And I think that everyone who's doing this right now sees a massive opportunity. There's obviously a huge market. This is a critical choke point. There's a natural area where it should accrue some value here. And I think that what is kind of unsure is as to how that value is going to accrue. And, you know, what the relayer operators need to do right now is speak up, either with separate voices or with one voice, and, you know, say, this is how we think it should happen. And the relayer DAO, I think, is a way to do that. So anyway, I'm talking about this a lot, and we need to meme it into existence, and I need some help here. So folks, if you're out there, I'm coming for you, and we're going to do this. Let's go.
I like.
Yeah. Absolutely. And one of the things that I know, and I can personally speaking, like with a lot of relayers who are running for persistence chain, like between persistence and osmosis chain, the only way we thought about incentivizing is that if they can run a validator on persistence chain, and then we can give a delegation to compensate for their operations, because that sort of seemed like most reasonable way to incentivize those. But it's just like, those relay models have to now, like, we have to wait for them to run validators or on chain to directly incentivize them. So I think so something like a DAO really sounds like an interesting idea. And it would be also like how the DAO like creates utility around different tokens coming in. That would be another like interesting aspect to look at. So yeah, very looking forward to Jack, that idea whenever you are there. You know, more than happy to jump on that and even amplify that idea within persistence ecosystem. Now that we see multiple chains from.
We're going to be coming to you for a community spend proposal. So, you know, all of the folks on here, I need your votes again and again. So yeah, we got a lot of community spend proposals coming. I want to do one on every IBC connected chain. I think now is the time.
Sure. With that, I think so. The other topic that I wanted to cover today is, and I talked briefly about before this panel, is like recent network outages with Solana, Avalanche have raised concerns for network stability of POS networks as a whole. In your opinion, how is Cosmos network better equipped to handle such incidents, or like if it has to happen, what would be the components that would be involved to bring a network down? JK, do you want to?
No one wants to start.
Thoughts on?
well, I just want to say that, like, I don't think you know, the outages that happened on Solana and Avalanche was mostly because like they had insane, like, I think Solana's was around, I think, one of the NFT drops, if I remember correctly, just like creating total chaos. I think the advantage that Cosmos has is the time right now. It's been around, like, you know, Tenderpin has been well proven. Cosmos SDK has been, you know, proven for years now. But at the same time, we've never had a Solana that NFT levels or traffic yet on chain. So what I'm trying to say is, like, I think Cosmos we need to be careful, and we need to keep learning what's happening on other chains, and be vigilant. We can't expect it not to happen on Cosmos eventually. Like, the similar sort of outages can happen if we see that level of operations happening. And so the one thing though is that, like, I think Cosmos has one of the best validator sets. All the validators, most of you well-known validators today, all started off with Cosmos. And so, like, the advantage here is that we got some pretty good set of people to get together into the war room if something does happen. But I do want to say, like, Cosmos is not going to be safe. It will, eventually, and we just need to be ready for it.
David?
Well, I agree. I definitely think that something similar could happen to Cosmos. We haven't had like I think the most used Cosmos SDK based, not most used, but most widely being used application right now would be Osmosis. Osmosis is chaos sometimes when they have their Osmo drops every day at the same time. Things like that could happen at a worse rate as we pick up more transactions. So we definitely would have to watch for that. But in essence, the Cosmos design was to sort of have these application-specific networks run in parallel and only communicate with each other when there's IBC communications necessary. So with that, there is sort of like a layer of safety that we have over other networks, I believe. But we talked about shared security. So with shared security coming up, we would have to think about problems that rise from that as well, in terms of transactions just jamming up networks and validators not being able to maintain the nodes as well as they would want to.
Matt?
Yeah, I would add, I think we have the Cosmos ecosystem has both a risk and an opportunity in that diversity. There have been some issues on the Terra network when they've had big bursts of traffic, and there's that has required some quick action. And I think we've sort of seen how the proponents, and the validator community there can work together really quickly to resolve those things. And that sort of feeds into, I think, the opportunity that each of the chains has is to learn from what happened on other chains, and get fixes done there before they happen on another chain. But that is also kind of an inherent risk here, as because we have this sovereignty. The Cosmos SDK code has ended up, we effectively have tens or hundreds of semi-independent code bases here. And when issues are identified, they need to get fixed sometimes, whether it means integrating an upstream fix or whether it means independent work on the part of the dev teams of each of these networks. So those can be a little bit irregular or a little lumpy in their deployments. So there is a risk there that when problems or attack vectors are discovered on one network, they may apply to tens or hundreds of other networks that then need to go get patched independently. Yeah, Cosmos, while it does have that sort of resiliency, there's also some unique risks that I don't think have been really well absorbed yet.
Jack, your opinion on that?
On which, sorry, I lost the thread on the topic.
Yeah, it was about like
what we have to do if Cosmos crashed.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I promoted and led an upgrade that caused a chain halt. We restarted the Cosmos Hub for it was like 125 validators at the time. We've seen this. This community knows how to deal with outages. I have been in so many validator upgrade rooms where things have gone wrong, things have not been ideal, and the level of communal troubleshooting that happens is a huge strength. The security-focused culture that we have and the deep level of knowledge of the software that all of the validators have is, I think, a massive strength. And, I do know that Solana has done a lot to build that as well. And I think that we saw that in their outage of folks kind of coming together. In that same way, you know, I have seen the Cosmos validators come together again and again in the face of adversity. And like, I have no doubt we would do it again.
That's great. Odin, any thoughts on that or any additions?
Yeah, just a few points. Like, I agree with Zach, and like, I'm not sure that we have some huge problem right now. Like, just take a look at the, like, Cosmos is older. I don't want to say that someone good, someone bad, like on developer side or in a validator side, but not now. Maybe 1 year ago, yeah, we can scare about something like that, but not now. And like, to be honest, ecosystem a little bit bigger than if you compare in Solana right now. I mean, developer ecosystem and all this stuff. So I'm not sure right now. But if you ask the same question 1 year ago or more,
designed. Coming to the last question of this panel is around staking derivatives are becoming the new staking norm because we are seeing more and more yield opportunities for staked assets. So right now, people are going out and then if they have staked assets, either they want to, like when the yields are too high, they want to take out their staked assets and then put onto like yield generation. And in that case, there was a huge opportunity that gap has been filled by staking derivatives. So how do you think like staking derivatives will evolve and how would they improve or impact the network security as a whole? Anyone can start their thoughts on this.
I mean, I think locking up staked assets in other protocols keeps assets staked for longer, which keeps the network more secure. So staking derivatives, yay.
I like, it's something new. Not right now, maybe last half of the year. Like right now, we're working on with Lido in our stake, and we're working on right now on our own solution in Solana, like our own staking, liquid staking pool. On the one hand, good opportunity for community because guys could use different platforms. Guys could put something in DeFi and everything. Okay, great. But unfortunately, only 10, maybe 25% of users use this function because another part of the users just don't know how. And the biggest challenge right now, just to explain that stake with a staking pool, everything okay, you don't lose your money, and you like a validator have to explain that this derivative that you receive is the same. You don't lose your money, blah blah blah, and stake pool is better for this decentralization, etc., etc., etc. So, in my opinion, Solana right now doing a very good like job on this because, as far as I know, already 5 or 6 Solana staking pools like already launched, and guys from time like day by day and put money on this stuff because if we take a look at Solana, like right now, and every stake in this list as well, like top 20 validators have a huge stake. Another one, like, but other validators have like not so huge. So stake pool could solve this problem as well from the decentralized side. Yeah, but we have to explain why users have to use this function.
Speaking specifically to staking derivatives and chain security, there is just like a slight concern that I do have around the fact that validators are losing a lot of autonomy, like a ton of power. At least for Lido, at the very least, I think validators have some control over there. Like validators are, are active participants in DAO, but there's a ton of also other liquid staking solutions. And validators are just like used as commodities at that point, basically. well, I'm not arguing, like, I'm not trying to argue whether or not validators are commodities or not, like, but the fact of the matter is, the people who are designing some of these staking derivatives are not exactly professionals around validators or blockchain security. They care mostly about DeFi yields. They care about fees, and what that means is that they're eventually going to be delegating to the lower fee ones, and eventually to any sort of validator that will give them anything they want. And as you know, like, validators here, at least on this panel, are all very responsible and want to be financially sustainable. And we care a lot about the networks we subject 0% fees. We're not going to be catering everything towards these DeFi, like staking derivative protocols. And so we'll see some of these like transitions of stake to potentially lower quality validators. I do think that might be something we'll consistently see. I don't think it's anything to be too concerned about for at least the next 6 months to a year, but afterwards, like, we got to be very vigilant. Like, I'm very concerned that we'll eventually see ourselves and see it, and wonder, like, why some of these validators are on top of the proof of stake protocols. There's going to be a future that happens like that. Yeah.
David, Matt, any thoughts?
I would reinforce that one of the risks that people are going to have to figure out how to manage is that when they're trying to pool validators, which is what these liquid staking protocols are doing, they're thinking of it in very financial terms. And when a financial operator looks at a pool of assets, which is what they think of a validator as, they really want to make it systematic. They just want to get a bunch of metrics. They want to put it in a spreadsheet. They want to figure it out and sort of group validators by characteristic and whatnot. But you don't actually learn all that much about a validator by looking at on-chain data. And so the information there that is that's sort of like, that looks impartial may not tell you all that much about the risks and the security posture of a given validator. It's possible for a very low quality operator to be very reliable and suffer no security incidents for a very long time. But that doesn't tell you anything really about what the next time period will look like. And so it requires, the kind of diligence that we see from our customers, who they want to know who you are. They want to know about your security. They want to know about your operational capacities, because they're forward-looking as opposed to backwards-looking. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I would definitely echo that concern. On the flip side, I think when you look at Lido, however you pronounce that, they've exercised a fair bit of that DAO has done a lot of diligence on who they select to be a part of that pool. And so that is to me hopeful, sort of that these operators, the people operating these liquid staking protocols will think very carefully and do a lot of work on figuring out who goes into those pools.
David, any thoughts if you want to add?
I guess I'll speak a little bit on like the user experience side, since we build products, wallets, Mintscan. I think a lot of it from the user's perspective would depend on the end user application being able to deliver an application that's seamless. For example, with pStake launching on persistence, a user would have to use MetaMask and also Kepler, which is a Cosmos SDK based extension. So it would be great if there was an extension that supports both Ethereum and Cosmos SDK based networks in a seamless manner. So I'm really looking forward to something like that coming out in the end user space. And from the end user's perspective, I think there could be worries about, will I get my airdrop correctly if I use this staking derivative? Will I get my Juno airdrop? So something like that should be kind of thought about when you design a staking derivatives protocol.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Cannot be completely impartial here, because like building a liquid staking solution ourselves, I think so can add on to that what JK pointed out. I think so it's a very valid concern. One of the things that we thought of, like, for like, I would not say days or weeks, but months of like how to choose that validator set, of how, like, what are the challenges. So I think, so one of the things, you could be criticized of, or but it's a trade-off that you take. So what the trade-off we took was, maybe we validators, but these validators have like huge experience of running validator nodes. They understand the network economics, and that network economics is not just on one chain, but is you can never know what sort of challenges you face. So choosing, I think so. We have almost everyone from this panel as one of the validators for Peacetake, and that was the reason why you want to choose the top validators. Maybe at the moment it is like it may raise concerns, but over time, it is like, with experience of these validator, you can decentralize it, as it's very new as a concept altogether. You can decentralize it, and it's like, again, bringing a lot of stuff, like, as Jackie also highlighted about how Lido is giving like certain power to validators. How validators could define it, and I think that we use that metrics in our grants as well, where we have delegation program grants. Is like, nobody can have 0% fees. If you're having 0% fees as a commission fees, you cannot get a delegation, because it's inherent, because we have to understand how the network has to be sustainable over time. And it has not, like, some validator who is trying to make some quick, like, is ready to give up small amount of money to impact the network or become like top 10 validators over like next 2-3 months, because they're 0% commission. That would do more damage to the network later on, in 3 months or 4 months, rather than losing out money, or some networks to choose those validators just for financial gains. So I think so. Those are some of the key components. Another thing is, we are working on the dynamics right now, economics of airdrops, which David highlighted. I think so it's a very, very important component, especially when looking in Cosmos ecosystem. Airdrops coming for different chains. How do you ensure that? So yeah, I thank you so much, guys, for putting out your thoughts on this. Any closing thoughts that any one of you have on the panel, or overall as a network security for Cosmos, or in general validator ecosystem in Cosmos? Would love to hear that, and then we can have a closure of this panel.
When shared security?
I think so. Yeah, I was talking to Billy before this for NFT. NFT panel and different parameters. He shared some very positive signs on shared security coming soon. So hopefully we see it very soon.
And looking forward to when we can do it in person. It's been a lot. It's one of the cool things about Cosmos is there was a lot of that, and it's so looking forward to it happening again.
Absolutely.
And the other thing about that is all the Cosmos people are great. Like, having met Boyden, I have not met you in person. I am looking forward to the day when I do, but everyone else on this call I've met in person. They're all fantastic people. We all live all over the world. We work on these shared things together, and it is the most special pieces of this ecosystem that it kept me here for years, and I love it. And with that, the last word I would have is get out there and be active in governance. As a validator, I think it's extremely important. We all need to, do this collaboratively, and like the role of this thing happen. If we're not involved in the governance of these chains that we run on, they're going to fall into disuse. So let's get out there and keep doing it.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, and looking forward to seeing most of you in Lisbon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
So that was a great validator panel. We had a lot of different aspects from network security and different opinions about staking derivatives. With that, now comes up one of the most exciting panels of today, which is NFT panel. We have tried to put together everyone who is working on NFT panels, and what were new products that they're launching, how they would bring in new NFTs into the Cosmos ecosystem. I'm sure a lot of people are yet to find about Cosmos ecosystem and NFTs in Cosmos ecosystem. So this is a great start for that. Today's panel will be moderated by Liam, and I have known Liam for a while, and he is doing a great job in Cosmos community and has done a lot of work to put this panel together. So let's bring Liam on board and so that he can introduce everyone. Hi, Liam.
Hi, how you doing, Avatej? I hope you're doing well.
Doing very well, and great to see you. And and I was just telling about how much you've been doing for Cosmos community lately. And so great to see you that you're picking up now on this subject, which I think so everyone in the community wants to know about, NFTs, and it's exciting. I think so in India, the God is even excited about this NFT panel. There's like thunderbolts like right outside of my house right now. So great. But let's begin it. I'll let you take over from here. And
excellent, sure. Yeah, so I'm really excited, of course, for the panel today, looking at the NFT space in Cosmos and also in the sort of broader ecosystem. I'm sure we'll touch on as well. So obviously we've got a few different speakers coming on today. I can see obviously we've got a few people backstage, and I'm just going to go ahead and first of all just figure out how I can actually get some of the speakers on stage. I'm not sure how we can get them all to join. But we're just going to be talking about, the growth of the NFT ecosystem in Cosmos as a whole, the advantages and challenges of cross-chain NFTs, which is really what's exciting about the Cosmos ecosystem. I can see a few people joining now, so if they can all come in, and I'll introduce everyone. And then also just NFT use cases as well, because we've seen, NFT art's really been sort of prominent in the crypto space. But what we're waiting on is more utility to be driven in other areas, and also probably to the art NFTs themselves. So as you can see, we've got quite a few different NFT projects in Cosmos that are joining us today. We've got Sisler from OmniFlix, who obviously I know quite well, so it's good to have you here, Sisler. We've got Shane from Stargaze, Michael from Pylon Tech. We've got Jeffrey Hugh from IrisNet, and I believe you're working on Uptick over there from Passage. So if all of you can just sort of briefly introduce yourselves, first of all, what your project does, and basically, what part of the project is focused on NFTs, if it's not just an NFT project itself. So if we could start with Shane first.
Hey folks, Shane. Building a project called Stargaze, which aims to be an NFT market in the Cosmos ecosystem. Our focus initially is going to be on generative art, and we are cutting dynamics to NFT bidding and integrating with DeFi.
Awesome. And then Michael, if you want to go next.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael. I'm CEO of Pylons. There's an S at the end, and what we are is basically NFT middle, so digital property lifecycle engine. So what we do is we have a state machine definition language where you can define how your NFTs get created and the rules by which they can transform. It's you program it in JSON, you upload JSON to the blockchain, and then you can build a Flutter app, and you can call those recipes. So as someone building a blockchain-powered experience, you never need to do any smart contracting. You never need to know anything about how blockchains work. You just define your state machine and write your app, and our app handles it. It's no-code middleware for the regular developer to do blockchain-powered digital item experiences.
Awesome, thank you. And Sisler?
Yeah. So, hey everyone, I'm Sisler Abhishek from OmniFlix Network. We're a P2P network to mint, manage, distribute, and monetize NFTs and community interactions. So this is where we work with independent creators, studios, traditional broadcasting houses, communities or DAOs, both at the protocol and at the app level.
Fantastic, perfect. And Lex, if you could explain what your project does.
Yup, fellow clan members. This is Strange Clan that we're working on. This is one world in the Passage platform. Passage is basically meant to be an accessible virtual experience, bringing kind of like the power of Unreal in terms of immersive and quality, but also making that accessible through decentralized cloud, Nakash. And basically what we're doing is trying to create applications for NFTs and create an experience where people can use the NFTs and just have fun, immersive story, community content to fill out this incredible space. All the other projects that these other teams are building, basically we want to be able to create something that drives people into this, creates adoption from people outside of crypto, and just kind of creates a no compromises quality virtual experience.
Lovely, fantastic. And we seem to have lost Jeffrey for now. I can't see him. So hopefully he can introduce himself and his project if he sort of comes back to the stage. But if we just move on then for now, a lot of you are doing different things within the NFT space and Cosmos. I find that really exciting. It's not all just the same sort of product. You know, there's definitely room for many different projects to come out. So I wanted to ask, you know, why do you think the NFT craze is growing? And how do you envision the NFT ecosystem evolving, maybe on a broader sense, but also on Cosmos as well? Maybe you can start, Shane, on this one.
I think the NFT ecosystem is growing because it's just a lot more accessible to most mainstream users, and you know, art is just more fun than maybe DeFi, and I think it just has a lot more mainstream appeal, and I think that's why a lot of people are coming into this space, and you know, a lot of people are getting wallets for the first time, starting to play with this stuff. And eventually they'll get into everything else that Web3 offers. And I think art is just a start for NFTs. I think it just has is eventually going to expand into that's non-fungible.
Perfect. And do you agree with that, Michael? Or do you think there's maybe some other reasons as well why people are getting involved?
Oh, well, I mean, I think there's so one path is there's enormous ETH liquidity and enormous increase in ETH price. People believe in Ethereum. They don't want to sell out of Ethereum, but they do want something else to do. So there is a very specific piece of the world that's driving prices on that side. On the other side, you know, and complementarily, and part of why they're doing this is there is a huge future market for this stuff. The amount of money that people spend annually on things like Fortnite skins is enormous. And bringing that stuff to a place where you actually own this, in my opinion, is only going to make it bigger. I've been on this bandwagon for years. I'm building my company to get to this market. I'm deeply committed to this. You know, I really believe in digital fashion, and I think Fortnite is just one example of digital fashion. I really believe in item-powered gaming. I really believe in NFT ticketing and in blockchain ticketing and using the royalty systems that we're starting to get familiar with for ticket resale, so that scalping becomes less of a brutal problem for artists. And that is actually going to be a little bit of a secret advance, one of the gold hack atom challenges that comes out of Pylons 20 days from now. So I mean, I completely believe that digital property, and I don't use the word NFT because I think it only makes sense to crypto people, but I believe that digital property is completely mainstream in 10 years, just completely normal. And fashion and ticketing and gaming is all going to just be built on it, and it's going to be no big deal. And it isn't going to be thought of as part of the same thing as digital money. Those are that distinct, you know, it's just not going to be that similar. And I think it's going to be bigger than digital money.
Fantastic. And we started to kind of go on to the next question a little bit there about what the most disruption of NFTs is. Is it music? Is it art? Is it gaming? And I think, you know, what you said, Shane, is the creativity is a big part of getting people on board. And I do tend to agree with that. Sisla, maybe you can talk about what you think the most disruptive part of the NFT ecosystem is going to be, and how do you see the NFT ecosystem evolving on Cosmos?
Yeah. So just to go back onto the previous question, like why did we have this craze around NFTs? You know, digital objects always existed, but digital objects on a ledger representing ownership, they didn't exist. And that was what, you know, this entire concept of, you know, decentralization, you know, distributed ledger technology, Gen 1, 2, 3 blockchains, and so on and so forth enabled. And people like after CryptoKitties and in the last 2-3 years, they've actually discovered what can potentially be done with these digital objects, digital properties, as Mike says. And these digital objects found media as a playground. Now media, like there are a lot of things that you can possibly achieve. When I say media, I don't just mean traditional broadcast media or things like that, but gaming, all of these are also part of media, where they can actually make sense or experiment with this new piece of tech and eventually implement it in something that's much more real world, much more how do I put it, like valuable in the real world. And the ecosystem, like apart from the craze around media, like personally I think the standards developed in the Ethereum community and across multiple communities have made sure tooling standards, development opportunities that are available, made sure NFTs grew. And personally we believe the utility of an NFT, in general anyone can just say that an NFT should have utility, but the utility where ownership exists and it is licensed, the IP is protected or utilized in some way, is what we believe will be a game changer. And it's not just for media or art or gaming, but as the panel mentioned, it'll be for everything. And in the next 10 years, this is only this will only go up.
Yep, fantastic. And Lex, do you feel that way in terms of the sort of the IP rights and sort of the sovereignty of people being able to own assets in the virtual world and gaming? So do you think the most disrupting application is gaming yourself? I know Passage is working on Strange Clan, of course, or do you think there's other areas as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's anywhere people have ownership, right? Because the category here is ownership. And people could have, I mean, you could use digital information, since you could grab it off of LimeWire. I mean, we've been grabbing digital information, using it, I can remember the first hacked, Photoshop app that I downloaded as a teenager getting into design. And it's like, we can go through legitimate routes to get that information or illegitimate routes. And now it's just about consensus, right? Introducing consensus into that equation and allowing a community to find, okay, who can rightfully use this or own this or gain value from this? And we get to agree together what that is. And that's how we're going to be defining the standard of NFTs on Cosmos is, okay, together as a community across our sovereign chains, who owns this and who gets the value from this? And that's what this is all about, right? So everything from what Sisla was saying in terms of like media in a broad sense, right? Content of any kind, but also experiences and then really subservient, all of this subservient to the concept of identity, right? Which is then who owns this collection of goods and who are you in this digital space? How do you represent yourself in terms of the assets that you have, having persistent identity across different experiences? So it gets big very quickly, which is why for us, we're focusing on 3D experiences, 3 dimensions, because it's just too much, right? It's too much content, too many kinds of content and experiences to limit this even to 2-dimensional media or 2-dimensional experiences. It's bigger than that, and it's all of those things, but it's also a whole lot more, and we're just kind of tapping into that.
Excellent. Yeah, and we have a lot coming in the NFT space. There's some really exciting points that all have made. But how would you guys sort of describe the current Cosmos NFT ecosystem? We're still very early on in Cosmos specifically, and how does it sort of meet, if you like, the challenges? How can we solve challenges like composability, usability, and adoption? How can we kind of get people to use Cosmos NFTs, and what still needs to be built out? Perhaps Shane, you can start this one off.
Yeah. So the way Cosmos, the Cosmos ecosystem changed, right? And all of them that have NFTs are going to have to find a way to talk to each other. So we need kind of NFTs built into the IBC spec. So like an app layer kind of protocol for NFTs. And I know, it's in the works, a bunch of teams that work with the group and a couple of others. And, hopefully in the next few months, we will, work this all out, and we'll all be able to, transfer NFTs between each other's chains. In the SDK, there's an NFT module in the works right now that's, I think, based on some of the Iris work. There's also Cosmosm, which I kind of helped bring to life in 2019 in Hackathon, and as well. So various kind of avenues for this, and I think in the next few months we'll figure out how to get everyone to talk
to each other.
That'd be really exciting when that comes along. Is there anything you'd like to add, Michael, on that?
I mean, I agree with sort of the first thing Shane said, which is, I fundamentally believe that NFT standards should be around IBC, not around minting. So I've not really been I haven't been particularly contributing to the SDK modules because they're really about minting, and I really, really care about standards around IBC in particular, with encumbrances like is this like RPC, like can you use this sort in a game while it's in some other chain? So like that stuff is incredibly important to me, and it's starting. I'm really excited about that. Your question, I think, also had this aspect of like consumer adoption. I'm extremely focused on that, and our hackathon prizes are focused on that. So we are going to try to get games out the door that regular people can download and play. And we are going to try to get a ticketing system out the door that people running events can download and sell tickets to their events and handle ticket redemption. So we are trying to cross the chasm into commercial usage in Q4 of 2021. That is our goal as Pylons. So like, that's, your question is right on point for like the central strategy for what I'm trying to do over the next 2 months.
Excellent.
And I think we got it. I think we can make it happen.
Excellent. Yeah, coming in the NFT space on Cosmos in the next few months. Sisla, maybe you could sort of explain maybe how we can get some more utility for NFTs. A lot of NFTs at the moment are just sort of JPEGs, they're just pictures, which is great. Art's a really good utility for it in terms of transfer of ownership. But is there any utility, particularly on Cosmos as well, that's going to come for NFTs beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that they're not addressed at all, right? Like things like a proof of attendance, like who's giving an NFT for this event, who's making sure things are in place, where the right standards are used for NFT transfers. Kepler can literally end up supporting maybe if not just how do I put it, like NFT transfers like directly, but there are a lot of issues and everyone has their own they have their own development going on. So even in our case, we took the approach of waiting until some standard is in place. We picked off of the Iris standard and then started improving upon it, which is when the Cosmos standard came about, which is again there's no consensus on that from the entire community, so we are still waiting on that. But eventually I think everyone that's building anything related to NFTs want to be compatible with one another, right? Tomorrow we might have Strange Clans NFTs on top of the OmniFlix marketplace, curated in the Stargaze zone, while Pylons can deliver the app layer to make sure NFTs are composed very well across all the layers of the chain, right? So these are some of the things that we all have in mind, but there's not enough activity that can be done collaboratively at this point in time, due to larger ecosystem issues. But definitely there's space for all of us to collaborate, and I think there are efforts being put forward in the right direction. Yeah.
Fantastic. And is there anything you want to add to that very quickly, Lex? I know we're running a little short on time, and I've got one more question, so if you've got anything quickly you'd like to add.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool space. As somebody who's relatively new to the ecosystem, I spent the last 3 months just talking to every team that'll, hop on Zoom with us or hop into Passage. And, it's been a slow process figuring all this out, but it's so clear that the community is building together and constantly looking for synergies and opportunities to push forward a standard and to drive people into Cosmos to create utility that's going to be, across chains, across projects. So good things coming. Yeah, it's a lot to figure out, and especially for the community. It's kind of like a lot of people from a technical perspective or from a non-technical perspective don't get it yet, but we'll get there, and we're really close. And a lot of it is just, like other people have said, just defining that standard and getting to the point of having that consensus of this is what we need to each have something that's going to have utility across different chains.
Fantastic. And welcome back, Jeffrey, by the way. I saw you dropped off a little bit there.
Yeah, I got a very terrible international internet connection.
I see. No worries. We're just caught up, and maybe you can obviously explain a little bit about what you're doing at IrisNet with NFTs, And you can maybe answer this next question here, which is how does the future Cosmos NFT ecosystem differ, and where does it sort of intersect with single chain NFT Ethereum?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think it's a perfect time for us to for me to give a short introduction for myself. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Jeffrey Hu from AirSnet. I'm the director of research of AirSnet. And AirSnet actually is, I think, is the first mainnet launched in the Cosmos ecosystem, and also in the first mainnet to integrate with the NFT modules in the Cosmos ecosystem. And our core dev team Bianjie actually have also developed several NFT applications and also partner with the Uptick team to give ticketing applications based on the NFT modules. And currently, our dev team also pushing forward the NFT modules on the Cosmos Hub right now. So for your questions, I think the NFT functions on the Cosmos Hub would be quite different from the NFTs functions you see on the Ethereum, on several other chains you see on the single chain. But to leverage the cross-chain particles, I think the NFT could have a more potential ability in the future, because when NFT can wrap all the things maybe in the future, the first you can see the JPEG, the text, and maybe next I think lots of the assets you see, like the financial asset and other valuable things can be wrapped into the NFTs, and you may see the cross-chain requirements will be higher day by day, just like the cross-chain bridge you see every day for the DeFi's. So I think the next step for the NFT could be in the future. So so back to your questions is what system. I think it's just quite a beginning this year for the NFTs in the Cosmos, but we really see all the chains, the NFT applications, and with the native the IBC particles, I think the applications could have the interoperabilities and quite different things within this kind of the NFT applications.
Perfect. And yeah, I think that's pretty much what we have time for. I think this is one of those things where we could do with another hour just to kind of hash over all the different parts of the ecosystem and all the things needed to sort of kickstart the NFT ecosystem on Cosmos. But obviously, thank you all for coming on the panel. It's been a pleasure, and look forward for everything that's coming in the future.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. And now we have the last panel of the day, which is also one of the most something I was looking forward to. And this panel is about Beyond DeFi. And so we have talked about DeFi, we've talked about NFTs, but something that is even more important at a foundational level is how do we have a decentralized infrastructure altogether? And we put together 3 projects for this panel because we wanted to discuss more about this. And these 3 projects have been working in Cosmos ecosystem since very early days, have been providing a lot of value. And all 3 individuals representing these projects have been also huge advocates of Cosmos community. And I'm proud that we are able to host them today. We have Greg from Akash Network. We have Gregory from Region, and we have Dan from Sentinel. It would be great to have all of them on stage, and then so that we can kickstart the session.
I'm Dan, I'm CEO of the Exidio, and we're the development arm building on Sentinel. And we're excited to be here. Excited about all the developments in Cosmos.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dan. That was the first thing that I was about to do, but thank you for you kickstarting. Gregory, do you guys want to just quickly introduce yourself, a bit about Akash and Region, and then we can kickstart the panel.
Sure. My name is Greg Osri. I'm the founder for Akash Network, and Akash is a peer-to-peer marketplace for cloud-grade compute. Primarily, with the goal of decentralizing cloud compute. And we're, big supporters of Cosmos and being a ecosystem participant for a very long time, and really excited to see how the ecosystem is excited to be here.
Yeah, hey everybody, hi Cosmonauts. Yeah, super grateful to be here. I'm Gregory. I'm CEO of Region Network Development Incorporated, and we're the dev team behind Region Network and help maintain the Cosmos SDK. And Region Network is building a peer-to-peer decentralized network for carbon markets and other ecological claims and assets.
Excellent. So that we have introductions out of our way, we would, I just wanted to start, we have talked about DeFi, NFTs, security at this event, but most importantly, the underlying component of this is Web3 infrastructure. And when you talk about Web3 infrastructure, it's very exciting because it has a lot of components. Would love to hear your thoughts on the web infrastructure and the current challenges with it, and how it can grow from here. Greg, do you want to kickstart?
Sure. So, as we are evolving from a Web 2 to a Web 3 world, Web 3, by definition, I would define it as something where you have an agency over your data, have sovereignty that has incentives baked in to unlock network effects, that has a money component to it. That's a Web 3 network, right? So as we move from a Web 2 to a Web 3 world, we are noticing that it's the change is not instant but gradual. So a big push right now with infrastructure, and a big problem right now with Web 3 is there are although there are amazing decentralization that's happening at the core, there are, however, components that still are very centralized. Be it just pure hosting of a web page for a DeFi application, to hosting their node infrastructure, to their middleware infrastructure. Most of that compute right now is on centralized providers, and the reason for that being is convenience, right? It's just so much centralized ecosystem has Web 2 has about 15-year head start. I would say Web 2 as dominated by the big players, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Alibaba, structure level. And, so a 15-year head start definitely puts them in a leadership position. But that's changing. So we're seeing the birth of Web3 protocols from an infrastructure standpoint. Akash, of many. And of course, here we have, VPN as well. And primarily we are seeing a shift in a new term that's being coined. And Amazon is essentially a collection of different web services, right? Hosting being part of it, but Amazon offers 300 different web services. And we can't, coming to the Web3 world, we can't really, one single network can't really address all the needs and provide all these services, but rather the individual networks that are providing amazing services. So be it from DNS, we have our Handshake, which is doing a phenomenal job in decentralizing DNS. Then you have routing, where a VPN or Sentinel is doing an amazing job by decentralizing routing. And we see some Helium there that's playing completely different part, but contributing to the same vision. From a compute hosting, Akash Network being a high growth network, where we've been doubling in live application workloads till about a month, and we're doing really well in terms of growth. That also reflects very well with the on-chain revenue that's indicating a strong growth. Then you have middleware layers like LivePeer, that's decentralizing video streaming and video encoding, right? And then you have storage layers. If you look at Arweave, if you look at Saya, Coin, I would say Arweave and Saya are decentralized storage, which is a completely different model. Arweave is offering something unique that has never been offered before by Web2, which is permanence at a significantly higher cost, whereas Saya is offering high performance, low cost, storage, which is very competitive when compared to Amazon S3 and really high performance. And it's probably best in class. So we're seeing quite a bit of product market fit that we achieved in the Web3 infrastructure, and we're seeing a lot of growth, which is very exciting. It's a really good indication that we're making a lot of progress towards a truly Web3 decentralized Web3 infrastructure. And I would give to Dan or Gregory.
Yeah, Gregory, do you want to share your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, just to share from sort of maybe a cultural and economic perspective. So, our mission at Regen Network is really to solve coordination breakdown issues that are leading to climate change and other social ills. And one thing that I would note is, the things that have been happening in Web 2 with Facebook and the 2016 elections, the 2020 elections in the US and globally, misinformation, disinformation, censorship, all of these things are actually very similar at a pattern level is the problems that we face in terms of ecological claims and carbon markets. That might be counterintuitive, but it's very similar. How do you trust that someone is doing their best to tell the truth, right? How do you keep institutional incentives from perverting, the marketplace and sort of governance, right? And unless we have the infrastructure that allows for community-driven and peer-driven and individual sovereignty, all of these layers, unless you have data durability, unless you can sort of create decentralized identity systems that can't be censored, many of these big social ills that we're facing are really unsolvable, right? And so when you get down to it, we need this sort of decentralized infrastructure, and it needs to be operating at the full stack in order to bring to bear the potential of Web3 to actually, create the social coordination technologies that we need, the market signals that we need. So, just that's one sort of lens on what Greg is talking about. Why is this important from a social perspective? Is really we're just not there unless we have a democratized, peer-driven internet infrastructure.
Dan, you muted.
Dan, you're muted.
To add on to both of their points, Gregory talking about how badly this is needed, and then Greg talking about how AWS, which hosts over 300 different web services, versus DWS, but AWS has the capital, the history, the head start. There's no one decentralized protocol that's going to compete with AWS on all of these services. So we're going to need different individual services, but at the same time, that creates challenges for the end, the end consumer, be it the business or whatever that's leveraging this service, because they're going to need to work with individual protocols. So the only way that I think that this is going to be feasible is if we're going to have composability and interoperability. And that's why I believe that, like, for the decentralized web stack, the Cosmos design is most effective to be able to build the decentralized web with multiple decentralized web protocols, focusing on what they do best, but having composability. And I think, bring this back to Cosmos, there's a reason that a lot of the top, decentralized web protocols, the Web3 protocols, are building on Cosmos. I think the IBC protocol leverages or gives us the opportunity to focus on what we do best, but still have composability.
It's a very good point Dan brought up. A big challenge right now is composability, right? Like yesterday, I was trying to move my website to an amazing application that replaces GitHub pages. As we all know, most DeFi frontends are hosted on GitHub pages, and GitHub is heavily centralized and owned by Microsoft, right? It's not the best solution. But I saw a solution where we can use Radical, which does decentralized GitHub, and you can push to Radical and host that on Akash. But in order for that to happen, you need to hold Radical tokens and Akash tokens. And even though the tool has some sort of interoperability, it was very convoluted, even for me as a power user of Akash to use it, right? So Cosmos helps solve that removes that friction in terms of composability, where you don't have to hold multiple assets and you can just hold Akash asset or Radical, and then you can get all these beautiful experience unlocked, right? I think right now our composability in Web3 infrastructure, I'm talking about cross-chain interchain composability, except for Cosmos, I don't think anyone has got it right. And soon enough, I think there's a very good chance that most of these projects will have Cosmos zones just to interact with IBC. And that's definitely our mission at Akash, to ensure that we can bring as many as protocols, Web3 protocols, to Cosmos, because compute is the underlying layer that ties everything, right? So on Akash, you can tie storage and live peer or DNS, right? You need a compute layer which can tie everything to Akash to bring a lot of the Web3 infrastructure into Cosmos, because there's really no other option if you think about it, right? For composability, I think we're very, very early and really excited about it.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think that a lot of people are going to see the potential of IBC and that composability, especially for the Web3 stack. But not every project is going to want to build their independent blockchain with their own independent security and like leveraging their own validator set. So I'm really personally excited for when Cosmos brings shared security natively to IBC chains. And so someone can spin up their own IBC chain and not have to go recruit and identify their own validator set, but still maintain that composability. So Handshake Network is a great example of, you brought up Greg earlier, a great Web3 protocol, but they're not natively on Cosmos. But soon they could be on Cosmos, but they could also, leverage shared security and be able to have full composability with the rest of the IBC assets.
Yep.
Absolutely. I think so. This was one of the topics that Zaki covered in today's event, and then we had in validator a panel as well. This brought up that how it would enable the projects to spin up the chains very quickly, and then like some projects are great at building applications, but building applications running blockchain are two very different things, and not essentially every team is good at both things. So that would help that bootstrap those teams which are very good at building applications. That brings to me another question, follow-up question to you, Greg, is how do you think that the WS would work together? Is for example, do you see or envision Akash becoming that hub for DWS, which can bring together all these applications? Something you were seeing Osmosis becoming that a sort of a hub for exchange of all tokens and like swapping those tokens. And now people don't need to route through Atom and like Cosmos Hub and then go to Osmosis and then exchange their tokens. And everyone like Terra directly integrating into Osmosis before like integrating to other Cosmos-based chains sort of brings that. Do you envision that composability can be there in a way where you have different DWS hub altogether? And what could be the challenges and opportunities there?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't have DNS and storage together without compute, right? Compute is the glue, right? You need compute because compute is where you compose most of the stuff. And that's why Akash is positioned in an amazing way, amazing place where we can actually bring and drive demand for interoperability, right? So so right now the state of interoperability is very, very basic, right? Today we see a lot of examples where where folks are hosting, like, let's say, WordPress, right? WordPress has a database, MySQL database. So the MySQL database container and the application container runs on Akash, but the backend, the storage, in order to, because Akash doesn't do persistent storage, that means if there's a restart, you lose your data. That's going to be fixed very soon. So in order to maintain, even if you have like storage, as long as the lease lasts, right? So once you're done with your workload, your storage goes away. So in order to persist your storage, you need a long-term storage solution like Skynet or RV, right? So a lot of folks actually do like RV, Skynet now, because they can back up their MySQL databases to Skynet and reboot it. But here, you still need to hold the Skynet tokens and Akash tokens, which is not the most ideal way, because if you go on AWS, you don't hold 100 credit cards, you just pay with one credit card, right? So I think first and foremost problem to solve is just payments, right? Can we pay for Skynet using Akash? And also a lot of folks like in our Cosmos ecosystem, like Terra, own Luna and have Luna. And say if you're a Lunar holder and you want to run a validator on Luna, for you to go use Akash, you got to convert your Luna tokens to Akash, right? It'd be great if you can actually pay using Luna on Akash or USD or whatever medium of currency that you have, right? And I think that first unified payments is going to be a huge advantage that the interoperability is going to add. Second would be just composability. Like you want to be able to compose in a way like, oh, bring my backups from Skynet automatically and bootstrap my Akash node or my database running on Akash, frictionlessly, right? In a smart contract. I think that's going to be the second level of interoperability we're going to see. So we're in very, very early stages. So even without a mature interoperability layer, people have figured out, like the radical example I gave, it actually works really well. But it's a little cumbersome, but actually works really well. So these are kind of stuff that you see early in ecosystems that are very positive, because people are figuring out solution problems that hasn't been solved, but figuring out resourceful ways and easy, like very creative ways to solve them, right? That just indicates there's a lot of need for this kind of interoperability and integration, and it's only time it gets smoothened out, right? Like Apple iPhone didn't have copy paste when they launched, right? So it's not, you don't have to build a lot of the features, but people figured out, even without copy paste, people did type multiple times just to use the iPhone, right? So that's the level of interest we're seeing right now with DWeb, and that's indicative with our actual growth with DWS, right? So I'm very, very bullish on the sector.
Bullish is the right word. Everything you're saying, Greg, these are all very solvable problems. These are the types of problems you want to have, right? These are the problems, like small technical challenges that are like, they're hurdles, right? But you figure out how to jump over them. We're seeing the true demand.
When users figure out when to jump over them, that's the best part, because we take the user's approach, the workflow, and then solve them, right? User solving the problems first is very, very critical, very amazing thing that I think is underrated. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I think, we're just on the same page. The radical example is a perfect example. And I think that we're going to start to see over the next 6 months, 12 months, a lot of this interoperability and composability start to get figured out.
Yes. Dan, that brings me to the other point that basically Greg also highlighted is that so concern of like decentralization in this terms, like in context of this question, privacy is a major concern. Everyone knows it, that their data is being used or they don't have agency over their data, but it comes convenience over privacy becomes like issue. People want more convenience than, okay, I don't want so much of security, but I want convenience. I should be able to go in and log in with my Google account everywhere. So if we have this concern, how do you think we can attract people to like more robust solution or create like privacy solutions more attractive? Because today, when the privacy solutions, they're very complicated. Like I have to have certain hardware or setup that like meets those privacy requirements. I need to have certain sort of like metrics to meet that privacy like metrics, which is not for like a general user who's using a mobile phone or who's just using like for like communicating with their friends would never go to that extent to have that privacy resources. How do you think through DVPN or any other solution that you have in mind, how we would make that proposition attractive for the users and how to bootstrap that culture?
Yeah, so I agree with you in the sense that technically users are making a trade-off of convenience versus privacy, but I don't think that's a conscious decision. Users are exclusively deciding for convenience, and they're not thinking about the implications. They're not deciding, I am going to worry less about my privacy. Users want great user experience. Users want to be able to get access to the products and services that they need. Users want to be able to cross the finish line. I recently moved to Puerto Rico, and the amount of red tape to be able to get a driver's license and the amount of hoops that I had to jump through was incredible. And like I had to go 3 different times. Whereas, where I came from in Boston, that process was a lot more seamless. And so at the end of the day, users are exclusively going to always choose convenience. And so it's on us as Web3 protocols to provide a user experience that matches as close as possible the native experience they're used to in the Web 2.0. And then it's also on us to bring them on the educational journey and to have them understand the trade-offs they were making previously in the decisions they were making. So VPNs are a good example of an opportunity for people to be able to route their traffic away from having their exit node be the ISP that their internet service provider is using, and have the ISP be the IP address be whatever they decide through their VPN. However, VPNs themselves that we've come to know and love, like Surfshark or Nord or whatever, some of the more common brands, are actually also a single point of failure and a centralization issue that have now become another issue. So instead of relying on your internet service provider that has your metadata and can log and do whatever they want with it, we're kicking the can down the road to another centralized company. And a lot of these companies now are proving that they are not to be trusted with their data. And so that's the entire concept of Sentinel, right? Sentinel is a peer-to-peer bandwidth protocol that Greg was kind of mentioning earlier. So you could route your traffic through any one node, and that's going through an individual node. It can be a residential node. It could be anyone that's offering bandwidth to the network, but there's no company that's in control of all these nodes. And so with that architecture, we need to provide front-end applications that look and feel like Web 2 services, but we need to prove that these are end-to-end encrypted and that these front-end app architectures are open source. But at the end of the day, the only way we're going to get consumers to adopt these products is still matching user experience. And the only other way is that we're going to do it by bringing people along that educational journey. So marketing is still very important. You could build a great product, but people don't know about it, they're not going to leverage it. I think a great product in this marketplace for end-to-end encryption now is Signal. And that's exclusively the way that I communicate with people. So I think people are starting to catch on because we've seen the growth of Signal. We've seen the growth of VPNs. And I think people are going to start to understand that the VPNs that they've come to know and love might not be as trusted as they would like. And now it's on decentralized protocols to show them that there are other options out there and they can be just as convenient, but they can also be provably end-to-end encrypted.
Yeah, all very valid points. And I think so with that regard, it's like now we're seeing like a lot of Web3 infrastructure providers are bringing this NFT factor into it, because people have gotten into this NFT bandwagon and they want to make sure that NFTs are more and more secure, so that they're highlighting all the ways people can lose their NFTs. And with that, like, people say, okay, I have invested 100,000 into one NFT. I cannot just lose it just because of one central point. So yes, I need to go and have this upgrade. Of course, the user interface in between has to be seamless for people to then easily migrate to a decentralized service provider. And of course, that marketing factor plays a huge part in that. I think so is education. So we're seeing that. So very, very good points from Greg and Dan. Gregory, now that we're talking about the infrastructure, we talked about when Web3 infrastructure, a huge problem has been ecological factor, like in environmental impact. Everyone just brings a lot of issues that, although there is decentralization, there are environmentalist advocates that talk about the impact it is having overall on the ecosystem, like our environment. How do you think the blockchain ecosystems or projects should ensure this ecological balance? And like, how does region play like a part in ensuring that, like, making all these projects conscious about it?
Yeah, great question. So, well, I mean, so there's a couple of layers of this. So layer number one is, yeah, proof of work is not efficient so, by design, right? Because it's creating decentralization by using massive amounts of energy in an algorithmic race, computational race to create, for instance, the Bitcoin ledger. We don't need to argue whether like we can look at that and we can say maybe the social good of Bitcoin compared to like the US petrodollar is worth that energy usage. Maybe it's not. I don't think we need to get into that conversation. I personally am not too worried about it. But at the same time, I think it's important as an industry to be, conscious of a couple of key facts. Fact number one is we're now in a free market competition between different money systems. And money systems, the money system that wins will be the money system that creates the most public goods with the least negative externality. And proof of work money systems have enormous negative externalities in the sense of energy wastage and greenhouse gas emissions. So it's just sort of like a piece of it. Now, proof of stake and like Cosmos SDK and the Cosmos ecosystem, running the whole Cosmos ecosystem is a rounding error on a large proof of work chain's greenhouse gas emissions. Really, like a couple of hours of Ethereum or Bitcoin is a whole year of the entire Cosmos ecosystem, all running all the chains and doing all of the work and creating all the value. So that's sort of like piece number one. Piece number two is there's a really interesting thing happening in the world today in which carbon being emitted is starting to be considered by businesses, insurance agencies, and banks as a liability on their balance sheet. Carbon that's being sequestered into ecosystems, for instance, is starting to be considered an asset. So we actually have this new monetization of ecosystem services taking place. So the interesting thing here is the attributes of sort of DWeb or Web3 that Greg was talking about before, the moneyness, the integration of money directly at the protocol level of the new internet actually affords our ecosystem an enormous economic advantage. And that's really what Region Network is all about, is inviting the DWeb and Web3 community, starting with Cosmos, to understand that actually ecological health is a monetary asset. And not only can it help us compete as money systems to create more public good with less negative externality, but also over time, these assets will accrue enormous value. And so there's a way that we can create a decentralized finance, D-Web infrastructure that helps people essentially go long on ecological health and have, you know, deep financial upside. And some of the things that we're working on to make that all work are, for instance, automated offsetting, so that at the protocol level or the validator level, people can just choose to be offsetting their emissions, and not just anonymously to, you know, anywhere in the market, but you can actually direct that so that that funding is landing in your community of choice, and there's positive outcomes that are actually increasing the quality of life for us out in the rest of the world. So, you know, I think there's an enormous opportunity for the Cosmos ecosystem specifically, and the larger movement of Web3 to really take the lead on this opportunity for climate finance. Because, you know, without just to circle back on why infrastructure is so important. Imagine a world in which Amazon hosts the servers with the ecological data, owns the satellites that are providing the ecological data, and is the biggest market maker buying up the carbon credits. In that world of centralization, who's going to trust the markets, and what is actually going to end up happening won't be good. Now imagine a world in which Akash is hosting the computational power, and SIA is hosting the data, and there's, you know, foam-based IoT proof of location, and there's region network eco credits, and there's a whole ecosystem that's securing the decentralized trust infrastructure we need. It's just a radically different and radically more exciting world to be building together.
And to that point on carbon footprint, very good point you brought up, that, you know, Web3, we look at reusability, whereas Web2 looks at expansionary, right? Today, buy a server on Amazon, it's a brand new server that Amazon deployed in their data centers to meet the growing demand. They're not reusing their existing servers, right? But if you deploy something on Akash, the whole model of Akash is to reuse or sell what you haven't used into a market, right? We look at a very reusability mindset. And I think that general mindset is just not us. It comes from the ethos that is, you know, that brought us all together, the decentralization ethos, right? And it's a very good point Gregory brought up.
Yeah, and on just this, I may be, you know, thinking out loud. I may be, you know, just getting ahead of myself. But do you see in future with decentralized web, you see sort of like an ecological fees being added? So it's like we have gas fees today, right? So something like an ecological fees. Maybe initially it's just a feel-good metrics, but in centralized system, I think so this failed because there was no transparent way to analyze where this fees is going, even though like a lot of like different cloud services or different infrastructure providers try to offer this to institutions, that they can offer like a grant or like an extra fee for making sure that the ecological balance is maintained, and that's how carbon credits came in place. But there was no transparent way to record this, like what the journey of that carbon credit is going. But if we have this sort of like ecological fees and it's on chain, you could see like it could go to a DAO. So for probably just like, I'm just thinking, and would love to hear your thoughts on this. There could be one DAO in Cosmos ecosystem, which is for say, for example, all Cosmos chains are using, for example, IBC today, right? So that part of that ecological fees goes to this DAO, and then it is for this DAO to make a decision to how it is distributed in betterment of life that we are having. And now this is transparent and on chain. So do you see something like this happening in future?
Yeah,
I'm sure this is a financial like instrument, which then of course will offer more opportunities for people to build products around it. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
I could see a use case where, say, there's a data center on Akash, and data centers are huge energy consumers and energy emitters, right? I could see them purchase credits on region, and which is verifiable on chain, and use that as an attribute on a Akash network to attract tenants that care about environment.
Yeah.
Right. So if I care about hosting my services in a data center that cares about sustainability, that's a good for me. That's a win for me, right? So I could totally see a complete interoperable, verifiable, sustainability, activity that could be attractive to a user base. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think we are going to start to see. I think we are going to start to see this integration of DAOs. I think you're going to start to see really cool things happen with NFTs because, that's, non-transferable reputation, is going to be essential. We're going to build it, we're going to be digitally wearing our, our badges, right, about what we care about. And that allows us to generate over time this really interesting sort of new web of trust between different people based on-chain evidence.
Yeah.
Like what was the real action there and what happened? And that creates a lot of the interesting thing that does is it creates economic and social conditions that create really a thriving space for innovation because it lowers the cost for vetting and being able to understand how people are going to behave if you invest in them or partner with them. It takes a lot of cost in today's world because there's so much misinformation and disinformation, disaggregation, and messed up economic incentives. So you can start to see how these from the ground up infrastructure, the different economic, crypto economic primitives that are being built, we can start to get a glimpse of, the promise of Web3.
Yeah, and I think the theme here is bullish, right? Like we talked about how it's bullish about there's a lot of opportunity and composability is coming. Gregory, you're talking about on-chain verifiability and like on-chain data. This makes me bullish. So like Web2 brought the idea of like digital reputation to light. Now every time you use Airbnb, the host gives a review to the guest, and the guest gives a review to the host. That's the same model that why can't I talk now? What's the restaurant website that you can review?
Yelp.
Yelp, right? So Yelp has a great concept, and consumers review the restaurants, and then people know what are the better restaurants to go to. But it was incredibly corrupted. Yelp was pulling out 5-star reviews from businesses and then threatening them to pay them to get the 5-star review back. Well, now this is all on chain. So Yelp can't play these dirty games. And Yelp can't say that if you want to actually keep this 5-star review, you owe us $500. So the idea of having a more fair and egalitarian and like level playing field for everyone, leveraging on-chain data is just the promise and the future of Web3. So I think that Web2 brought on online reputation. Web3 is verifiable online reputation. And that makes me incredibly bullish for the future.
Yeah, absolutely great. So on the closing note, there was a question I had about Cosmos SDK, but it's been very well put already by Gregory, Dan, and Greg about like how like we already have that opportunity in Cosmos SDK, which is superior in comparison to other ecosystems. Now, on closing note, what would be one thing that you would like to see in Cosmos ecosystem as an infrastructure play, like a DWeb play, which could be opportunity out there for newer developers to come in and start building on? Right? I think, as we said, like this is a very a huge untapped market altogether. And now the composability factor is a huge play again, which is like in future. What would be that one idea that you would have in mind for somebody else to develop, and that basically adds on to this bigger suite of more ecological balanced infrastructure, more decentralized infrastructure, and more verifiable infrastructure?
Boy, where do I start? I want to see a lot of amazing things. If I had to pick the top one, I would say key management system, secrets management. There is no good way to manage secrets. Like we have the Web 2 version would be HashiCorp Vault, which is amazing to store secrets. Secrets, when you pass around different networks, you need to be able to have some sort of a mechanism that'll store your secrets in a decentralized way, right? New Cipher had an opportunity. I think that's a missed opportunity. I mean, I love the project, but I haven't seen much happening. So I'd love to see something like New Cipher in Cosmos. I like deep respect for Ethereum ecosystem. I like the Ethereum, what they've done, the progress they've made, but infrastructure placed on Ethereum is not very practical. Right now, to use New Cipher, I need it's a ERC20 token, and I'm not paying $100 to store my secret. So like, I think there's an incredible opportunity to do secrets management and build out an entire infrastructure on top of that that focuses on collaboration, like multi-sig in a collaborative environment, where multi-sig is still a very extraneous process. It takes days to coordinate between people through various homegrown command line tools, right? If we can solve multi-sig, it'll be fantastic, along with secrets management.
Yeah, for me, I completely agree, Greg. For me, I think mine is a little more general. It's about, instead of us versus Web 2.0 in a war and saying that, the companies that have been so successful to date are all evil. I think quite the opposite. I think it's about embracing companies that have built on the Web 2 narrative and built on that kind of like iterative of the internet, and welcoming them to Web 3, giving them the easiest rails to build on Cosmos, the easiest rails to build a decentralized network, and the easiest ways to them to prove that instead of Yelp removing reviews, having Yelp transition their business to on-chain and bringing this whole ecosystem into the Web3. And Sentinel is doing that specifically. Sentinel is just a peer-to-peer network, and anyone can participate in the network. I'm the co-founder of Exidio, and we're a software development company building connections on Sentinel. And what we're doing is we're actually helping companies build their own VPNs connecting to the Sentinel network. So even centralized VPN companies, we're welcoming them to say, pivot your business model, leverage the infrastructure of a peer-to-peer network, and then bring your users onto that peer-to-peer network. So I think that the Cosmos SDK is already a good toolkit to bring people in, but I think better educational tools and better like onboarding and more welcoming messaging to bringing Web 2 companies, to bringing them into a Web 3 protocol, and then only seeing if they're actually, going to walk the walk, if they're actually going to start to build these tools themselves and take it seriously. I think that the goal isn't to have a small little bubble of Web 3 fighting the giant that's Web 2. I think it's bringing everyone to a more decentralized and equal playing field on Web 3.
Web 2 interface, Web 3 infrastructure. That's the way to go.
Yeah, I love both Greg and Dan's visions there. And I'd maybe raise it one more and just say, in our world, we deal with climate accounting and carbon markets. We're scrappy. We're a scrappy, community-driven, open source, decentralized web startup that's growing into a big community all over the world. But still, the places that climate change conversations happen are very institutional. This is the UN. This is, everybody's about to be meeting in Glasgow for COP26. This is USDA. This is big corporations. Who are the big emitters? They're big companies. Just as Dan was saying, how do we shift the narrative from we're fighting to hey, here's an invitation. Here's an invitation for a global ledger of carbon and how that could be accomplished, and how that the beautiful thing about the Cosmos SDK is We don't have to invite people even onto region network. We don't have to invite people onto, the one chain to rule them all, right? We can say, hey, we've built this open source software and we can interoperate with it. We're comfortable enough in our ability to provide value, right, that we don't have to try to capture your value. You'll see that there's plenty of value to be had in an economic relationship, right? And that is such a powerful position in depolarizing and driving adoption so that IBC really does achieve the network effect it is. So in my mind, it's really decentralized climate accounting infrastructure. It's leveraging the Cosmos SDK for what it can bring to create what's referred to in the climate world as nested jurisdictional accounting, which is how these global treaties are made. It's like each company, each corporate, each consortium, the whole world, we have to nest that accounting system so that it computes in an interoperable way, and we have a single climate accounting system without forcing everyone into politically untenable trust situations. Like, you have to have this like transparency in order to achieve that level of coordination at a planetary scale. So I'm just very excited about the Cosmos SDK itself, and then the tools we're building at Region, the Region SDK, around how to achieve these ecological accounting outcomes globally.
Yeah. That's great. I think so. We had quite an intense discussion about different aspects, and great to have you all, part of Cosmos season, the rise of Cosmos. I think so. Truly, we have discussed a lot of alphas here as well. So anyone who listened to this panel could go out and can start, leveraging either like the tools that are already available, and encourage everyone to use, Akash Network, TVPN, region to just put together like a tool which can again cater to more requirements out there. With that, we'll take a leave for today. Thank you everyone for joining us today. It was a beautiful panel and always pleasure to host you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Ciao.
Like, oh my God, dude. I'll do it myself. Just give it to me. Frozen, unfrozen, I don't care. I'll eat it. I don't care. I don't care. But okay, baby. Well, you just let me know what you need or anything. Let me know how you're, I guess like once you get it and stuff, like rest for a couple hours or so, and then let me know how you're feeling around then. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, man. Oh, man, it's so funny with the timing of this because I got these tickets about a week or so ago. So, and they were, like it's a really fun little Halloweeny type of thing that I wanted to show you and take you to tonight. Yeah, so I mean, maybe you could fall asleep at the event or something. Yeah. Yeah, but it could be a good distraction for you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just drink a lot of liquids, bub, today. Drink a lot of like hot tea and liquids, and just keep drinking it nonstop. No, bub, just straight up water. You don't want sugar. You don't want any of that crap. Just drink the fucking boring water, okay? I know you keep trying to avoid it. I know it's boring. I know it tastes like nothing, but freaking drink water and tea, man. Yeah, dude. Well, okay, good luck. I hope it goes all right. And yeah, I'm happy that you're doing this, bub. And any way I can help you out or anything like that, let me know. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Nice. But maybe it's I don't know. I would do research, of course, but maybe it might be smart to like eat a really big meal right now. Yeah, eat something more so your stomach's like completely full, so you don't have to really think about eating too much the rest of the day. You know what I'm saying? Like have like a get like a burger or something, or like something really big to fill you up for most of the day. Because I don't know if you're gonna get the shot, and then they say we recommend that you don't eat for like 5 hours or something, and then you're like, oh crap, and then you're like, oh crap, all I had was a bagel today, you know. So I would do that just in case personally, but I know you're gonna do what you want to do regardless and stuff like that. So I get it. I'm just making suggestions, I'm not telling you what to do. I just feel like that would be smart. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it. I love you, Bob. Good luck. It hasn't come to the door yet. It's supposed to be here today, though. They told Amazon says it's getting here today, so yeah, I'm definitely stoked for that. I can't wait to try it on and then find out I'm much bigger than the costume. Yeah, exactly, Bob. Exactly.